Military Summary channel, and in this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. The Ukrainians carry out another massive drone attack in the direction of the capital of the Russian Federation, the city of Moscow. The sources are saying that during the previous night, lots of explosions were recorded, lots of drones were brought down by Russians, by Russian air defense system. The Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation this morning reported that more than 70 drones were destroyed by Russian forces, but despite the fact that most of the drones were damaged and destroyed, the Ukrainians managed to deal damage and managed to deal some panic and some very unpleasant thing for the Russians. For example, in this video we can see how the Russian plane was flying very close to the surface, right above buildings, and the sources are saying that this plane was trying to avoid dangerous areas where Ukrainian drones were flying and where, of course, Russian air defense was working. So as you can see, there were very high chances that as a result of all these things, the Russians could destroy their own plane as a result of friendly fire. But as we can see, the Russians managed to avoid this situation. Now let's move further. Very interesting things are coming from Kiev during the previous 24 hours. According to information we have, Zelenskyy adopted another law, another bill. According to this bill, he can send forces abroad. Zelenskyy plans to send Ukrainian armored forces units abroad. He has submitted a corresponding bill to the Verkhovna Rada. If adopted, the bill will allow the deployment of troops to Turkey and the United Kingdom for national security and defense purposes. But these are not the only reasons. Let's discuss this in details before moving further. Zelenskyy has proposed sending the Ukrainian Navy to Turkey and the United Kingdom. He submitted to the Rada a draft law on the deployment of units of the armed forces of Ukraine to other states. Defense Minister Shmyhal explained that this law is necessary in order to send Ukrainian units to Turkey and the United Kingdom to receive complex military equipment and master its use. So according to the official position, the Ukrainians are planning to send the rest of the remnants of their fleet in the direction of Turkey, in the direction of Turkey once again, with the purpose just to change the flag, because the Russians now are using Navy drones and the Russians are planning to intensify these activities. Most likely Ukrainians understand that their fleet, the remnants of their fleet, will be destroyed by Russian Navy drones. So that is why they're trying to save this fleet, and the only way to do this is to change the flag of the fleet. And then the only way to change the flag is to give these ships to Turkey and the United Kingdom. So most likely this is the reason. But the question is why the Ukrainians are planning to redeploy their fleet from the Odessa region. And to receive answer to this question, first let's discuss the situation about Moldova. According to information we have, for this upcoming weekend, the parliament elections are going to start on the territory of Moldova. Very dangerous parliament elections that can lead to unpredictable consequences and to fight between NATO countries and the Russian Federation. The current president, the current prime minister, the president of Moldova, Maya Sandu, has already made lots of very interesting statements. She said that Russia could seize the Odessa region, turning Moldova into a springboard for an offensive, says President Maya Sandu. The Moldovan Romanian hysteric adds that a victory for pro-Russian forces in the upcoming elections is extremely dangerous. So she began pressing the society. Another important statement, another important thing, a statement was made by Russian intelligence service. They stated that Europe is preparing to occupy Moldova. This is planned to be done at any cost up to the introduction of troops and de facto occupation of the country. At this stage, there is a concentration of NATO member states' armed forces units in Romania near the Moldovan borders. The transfer of troops to the Odessa region of Ukraine is being prepared to intimidate Transnistria. The first group of career military personnel from France and the United Kingdom has already arrived in Odessa. Such a scenario has been repeatedly rehearsed during NATO exercises in Romania and could be implemented after the Moldovan parliament elections on September 28. Europe is afraid that the falsification of the election results will force Moldovans to take to the streets to defend their rights. After that, at the request of Sandu, the armed force of European countries will force Moldovans to accept the reality. So now let's summarize everything. The Russians, as we understand, are planning to start riots on the territory of Moldova on the 28th of September after the end of the parliament elections. So most likely we're going to see lots of protests all over the entire territory of Moldova. There is Transnistria very close to the situation. We understand that, according to information we have, most likely European countries, NATO countries will never accept the change of the regime of Moldova. They will try to keep the current situation. So we're talking about the current president of the state. So most likely this is the reason why Zelenskyy adopted the law that he can send troops abroad, not for the fleet, not for the purpose of rebasing of his fleet to Turkey or to the United Kingdom. Most likely, if everything goes wrong on the territory of Moldova, if pro-Russian forces win the elections on the territory of Moldova, most likely Zelenskyy, Maya Sandu, and some NATO leaders will try to begin a small war in this area with the purpose to fight Russians on the territory of Transnistria. So this weekend is going to be very difficult and very hard, and Russia most likely will try to intensify their activities and to begin something special in this area. Furthermore, I would like to remind you another important thing, that Russians on the 20th of September announced that they closed the Kapustin Yar test site from the September 22nd to September 27th, most likely with the same purpose. They will use, if everything goes wrong, if the elections on the territory of Moldova will be wrong or something like this, or if Ukraine begin their offensive operation in the direction of Transnistria, or if anybody attack Transnistria, most likely Russians will use their Oreshnik missiles to show everybody that it's not a very good decision. Anyway, let's wait and see what is going to be next. But now it's clear that this week is going to be very difficult and very interesting. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Zaporozhye direction. As for the previous 12 hours, we haven't received anything from the eastern direction, but during the previous night we got some changes on the ground from the western direction in the area of responsibilities of the group of forces Dnieper. The Russians improved their positions and are basically captured everything to the south of Stepnogorsk, so all these trenches, fortifications and strongholds to the south of the settlement was captured by the Russians. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Pokrovsk direction. During the previous 24 hours, we got lots of very interesting updates, just interesting videos. For example, in this video, we can see how Ukrainian drones were flying above the central part of the settlement of Novoekonomichne, and the Ukrainians were searching for Russian soldiers in this area. And this video is another proof that confirms that the central part of Novoekonomichne is under complete Russian control. When Ukrainians realized that they haven't found anybody, they retreat back in the direction of the settlement of Mirnograd. Another important video we got from the area of Belitskaya Dorozhnya. So this is very interesting video, and this is not just the video, this is the reality that the Russians and the Ukrainians are living in. In this video we don't see clashes, we don't see fights, we don't see explosions, we can see a field, and as you can see the entire field is covered with fiber optic lines. So lots of fiber optic material basically covering the entire field. It's thousands of lines, thousands of fiber optics, which means that this is the face of the special military operation of the modern warfare, that the entire field, as a result of clashes in this area or as a result of use of thousands of drones, was completely covered with fiber optic. Just a very interesting video to watch. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in Konstantinovka. It seems that the Russians are preparing before the beginning of offensive operation. During the previous 12 hours, we got lots of videos that confirmed that the Russians during the previous 24 hours, 12 hours managed to improve their positions, to cross the river of Krivoy Tarets and to answer the southern part of Peshchevka. This video confirms words that were stated by the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, Valery Gerasimov, who told us that the Russians crossed the river of Krivoy Tarets and answered the settlement of Peshchevka. So based on this video, we adjusted the map and we colored the southern part of the settlement. Now the Russians continue offensive operation further in the northern direction. Furthermore, several neutral analysts and pro-Western resources reported that currently Russians concentrating their forces in the area of the southeastern part of the city of Konstantinovka. We're talking about this residential area. The Russians are about to finish the battle for this territory. They're bringing more and more forces, and the Russians preparing themselves before the beginning of offensive operation in the northwestern direction with the purpose to answer the city of Konstantinovka itself and to take under control the first defense layer in this area. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Kupiansk direction. During the previous 24 hours, the Russians intensified their activities in the area of Cherneshina. So during the previous 12 and 24 hours, we recorded lots of videos of Russians were bombing and attacking Ukrainian positions in the vicinity of the settlement. Most likely the Russians are preparing themselves before the beginning of another offensive operation, and this time to the west of the river of Zherebets with the purpose to maintain the lines and to cut this pocket. So we expect very heavy clashes in this area in coming days. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.